Happy Q&A Friday to you. How are you? Glad you're here. My name's Mike Hathcote, and welcome to Q&A Friday, where we talk about voiceover, answer your voiceover questions, and prepare for the weekend. So, while before we get to that, while we're here at the beginning, go ahead and chime in on the chat with your questions and or where you're watching from. We'll do some shout outs here as we answer questions. And then, of course, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. We always appreciate that. And if you haven't yet, if you're relatively new to the game, check out the book, The VoiceOver Blueprint, which you can get in the description below for less than $10 for the audiobook, the digital copy, as well as 4 free bonus gifts. So check it out. And also last day, today is the last day for the discounted price on Dave Fenoy's Character Creation Method program. Dave, of course, is a legend in this business, especially in the character space, video games, animation. His credits are as long as my arm. We've discounted that for the last couple of weeks or so. So you can get that also in the description below for the much discounted rate. Of course, it'll still be available after today. It'll just go back to the full price, along with all the other programs we have on the webpage. So if you want to get it at a much discounted rate, you use the code DF, as in Dave Fenoy. DF 400 will get you $400 off of this. And I'm talking hours. This isn't just some short little one-shot webinar. This is hours and hours of learning content from Dave Fenoy. So if you're into it, get into it. Okay, let's get into the question, shall we? Right into it. Hey, there's Sean Hunt. Happy Friday from Longview to you. He's the first one in today. He also did a fantastic job last night on the TV Affiliate Boot Camp. I think that was session number 4. Yeah, I think session number 4. And yep, and there's Grady also on the boot camp. He did great last night too. He's wrapping things up in Brownsville, Texas. And there's Wayne from Port Orchard, Washington. And good morning, Jason from Kearney, Nebraska. And there's Nancy from Yankton, South Dakota. And Sarah says, good morning from Kentucky. Mike, are you familiar with the DAW Logic Pro from Mac? If yes, thoughts on user friendliness? I've heard of it. I've never used it personally. I know plenty of people do use it. So, I'm partial to Mac products anyway, just because they are user-friendly pretty much across the board. So I would say if it is a Mac-only product, it probably is user-friendly. I use Final Cut Pro for video editing, and it is super simple. So, I would say it's probably worth checking out. What I would also do is check plenty of YouTube videos on how to use it, because I'm sure there are tons. And so check that out first before you maybe dive in, just to see, kind of get the lay of the land before you plop down your money and do that. There's Dennis from Grant Park, Illinois. Good morning to you. And there's Edward from Jacksonville, Florida. And Sally from Plano, Texas. Jim asks, good morning from Memphis. Shotgun mics pick up off the tip. Does that not make them more sensitive to breaths? I don't think so. I think a shotgun mic, because you're never supposed to talk directly into a mic anyway. You're supposed to speak past it. You see where mine is? Mine is kind of pointed down at about a 45-degree angle. So you're never talking directly into it. You're just kind of blowing past it. So I don't think so. But obviously, if you are noticing more breaths, then just figure out a debreather plug in, or just manually lower them when you can. Or even better, learn the technique of micro breaths, meaning that, you take these little short, tiny breaths in the, as you're reading, and you don't have to take a big, a big breath. That is something that you can learn. It takes a while to learn that, but I've been able to learn how to do that for the most part, and it definitely helps in your editing. Also, just make sure that if you are going to need to take a breath, when I coach students on reading technique and that kind of thing, I always tell them to use the commas as your gas station to fill up your gas, right? Every time you get to a comma, that's when you can breathe, if you're out of breath at that point. So try to make it to the commas or at least to the natural pausing places in the script. So you take a giant breath at the beginning, you get, a decent amount through there until you feel like, you're about to run out of breath. Try to get to the next natural pausing place in the sentence or a comma, then take your breath and then keep going. So use the commas and the natural pausing places as your gas stations to get more gas in the tank. And then that should help. Wayne says, I did a voices.com audition. The client wanted a sample at 3,216. Yeah. I may have done a number of samples afterwards without changing it back to 44.1. Would this result in any issues for those auditions? It might. I mean, if you wanna go back and listen to those, Wayne, and see if you can audibly hear a difference, um, but, maybe not. That is a pretty extreme, 3,200 versus 44.1 is a pretty extreme difference. So, I would just check those. I mean, if you can't really notice a difference, then usually the listener won't. But it is I know it I've done that too, where I've, had a client ask me for a specific, sample rate and bit rate, and then I set it to that, and then I forget when I do my next project to do it again or to change it back. Just try to remember that. Because unfortunately on Adobe Audition, whatever you set your bit rate and your sample rate to, it'll stay that way for every new job you open after that. So you have to be vigilant and make sure you go back and change it. David says hello from Hamilton, Ontario, sorry. And Callie from Pasco, Washington, happy Friday to you. Hey, Andrew from Latvia, good to see you this morning. And Charlie says good Friday morning from Sparta, Wisconsin. Hey, Kirk from Greenville, South Carolina. Sarah says, I have family in the Dallas area. Could you speak about the One Voice conference, please? Would this be something appropriate for a VO newbie? Absolutely. Yes, I'll be there. It's August 21st, I believe. It's like a Thursday through Sunday. And yeah, I'll be there for that weekend. I think VO conferences are, I mean, they're not a necessity, but if you've got family in Dallas and you can stay there, then, get free rent or no, free boarding or whatever you want to call it, free lodging, then yeah, they're absolutely worth it because not only can you kind of put, you know, see people in, not firsthand, one am face to face that you maybe have only seen online or whatever, but all of the breakout sessions are great for learning, whether it's learning about a specific genre of VO or learning from a casting director on, what they prefer to, hear when they send out auditions. There's just so many different little classes that you can be a part of where you can pick up, little nuggets of information to learn and grow your business. So yeah, absolutely. If you're anywhere close to Dallas or you would like to go there and stay with family, and I'd love to meet you in person too, Sarah. So absolutely. Just check it out. It's called One Voice Conference. We do it, there's one in Dallas every year and also in London. And so those kind of go congruently there. It's probably the next largest one behind VO Atlanta, which is the big one that everybody, goes to every year. And when do they do that? Can't remember when they do the VO Atlanta, but anyway, Um, it's run by J. Michael Collins, who is a very well-respected, thought leader in the voiceover industry, and so he always puts on a great event, and, he and his wife actually run that. Actually, his wife is, like, the main driver of it, but, he is also, very involved. So, yeah, I'd love to see you there. Hey, Tim from Altoona, happy Friday to you. Dennis says, I don't know what IKS means, but it, normalize your audio recording during post-editing? If so, -2 or -3, or is it all about the maximum recording level results? Not quite sure what you're asking there, um, but you should always normalize one of the final steps of your processing process, processing process, mastering process, let's put it that way. One of your final steps should be to normalize the final file that you send off to the client to -3 decibels or -3 dB. Um, it is the second to last step in my mastering process. The final step is, a little bit of NS1 to take away some of the noise floor. But, um, yes, you should always -3 before you send to the client. Now, your regular recording before you do any mastering, your regular voice, reading at your regular voice level, your volume level should be peaking anywhere between -6, -9-ish, maybe -12 decibels, just at your normal speaking voice before you do any application of any plugins or any kind of processing, EQ or compression or anything like that. Then once you apply all that stuff, after you've done all your polishing, then boom, -3, it pops it up there, and, there you go. That's usually what I do, and that's what most engineers will tell you as well. Diane from Highland, Wisconsin, good to see you. Sally says, "I've booked my ticket for the One Voice conference and will be going with my mentor. Looks like a lot of good sessions, including one for newbies." Yeah. Yeah, newbies, I mean, and I hate the term newbie, but anyway, um, when you're new to voice acting, there is so much to learn, and it can feel like you're drinking from a fire hose, and it is just, it can be overwhelming, and so you have to kind of pick and choose what to learn and what to work on and just, absorb it as you can. But these are great places to absorb that stuff. And just because the class is for a newbie doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't go to other classes as well. Um, because you can jot that stuff down for later, when you actually get to the point of being able to use it. So don't just feel like you have to just go to the newbie classes. Absorb it all and learn it all. And see if you can find me. I'd love to meet you in person, Sally. Theo says, "Happy Friday from downtown Chicago." Theo also says, "I've thought about replacing my basic Scarlett 2i2 audio interface with one that has some audio limiting to deal with potential clipping when I get loud. Good, bad idea." Well, it really depends on your DAW. Most DAWs have limiting settings, hard limiters, so it'll stop you from peaking or from clipping. And for those of you who don't know what clipping is going above 0 on the waveform. So when that does happen, when you go above, if you raise your voice or you're too close to the mic or something and you clip, meaning you go above 0 on the waveform, it will distort when you play it back. It'll go like like a blown out speaker in your car. Um, that's what clipping is. So there are a lot of built-in things. I know there is in Adobe Audition. I don't know about some of the others where you can limit that stuff there versus doing it in your interface. I'm a big fan of using, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And your interface, I mean, you can get like an Apollo or something like that that has all these built-in channel strips and plugins and pre-effects and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of that. That's just more stuff to get to mess up. So, you know, less is more when it comes to those kinds of effects, at least in my opinion. But check and see if your DAW has those settings first before you sink a bunch of money into an Apollo or some kind of a fancy schmancy interface. Just my opinion. Hey, Gerald from Atlanta. Good to see you on here. Me and Gerald go way back. We worked on a couple of demos way back in the day, even before he joined the TV affiliate boot camp and ended up with a cable station right out of the gate before the boot camp was even over. He got a job at a cable news network for doing their signature voices. So good to see you, Gerald. Hey, Edwin from Charlotte, North Carolina, currently Sumter, South Carolina, taking care of my mom. How is everyone? Well, hope your mom's doing well, and tell her I said hi. Andrew says, how to get the most out of the character method. I mean, devouring it all at once seems to be overkill. Yeah, I mean, the good thing about any of our programs is once you've bought it, it's yours forever. So it's not like it goes away or anything like that. So you can take your time, just take it a bite at a time because yes, it is a lot of content, especially this one. It's several different sessions over the course of I don't know how long, but several different sessions with Dave where he's teaching a class of students in the room, but we filmed it, so you're getting all that same knowledge that they got, but it's recorded. So just take your time and just little bit, a little bit, a little bit, and you'll get it. But remember, you can always go back and watch it a bajillion times if you need to, because it's always going to be in your member area. Jim says 3,200 doesn't seem doable. My H5 doesn't offer but 44.1 and 48K, 15 and 24 only. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, those settings can be set in your DAW when you're opening up the file to start recording. You set your parameters there, and then I know in Adobe it just stays that way for future recordings. Whatever you had it set at, it's going to stay that way until you change it again. So that's why I'm saying you have to kind of be aware of that and make sure that you're changing it back to your standard setting. Becky says, woke up with a scratchy throat. Boo. Perfect day to audition for those raspy character reads. Looking for the silver lining. Yeah, just try to get ahead of it. I mean, hydrate, throat coat tea, that kind of stuff. Hopefully that's just a one and done kind of thing and it'll be better tomorrow. Hope you get better soon, though. Happy and Joyful says hello from Florida. Terry says, hey, from Fallston, Maryland. You might have talked about this before, but what inspired you to get into voiceover? Oh, that's a good question. Well, like a lot of people, I've been told that I have a nice voice, even though that doesn't really matter these days. It did back in the day when I started in voiceover or in radio. It did help if you had kind of that slick, polished, resonant voice. Um, so but yeah, even when I was in high school, I would do like fake fake radio commercials and stuff like that. And I remember calling into radio stations to request, songs and stuff like that. I used to always just be fascinated with radio. And then after I got out of radio and went and did skateboarding for several years, when I got back into it, once again, doesn't matter if you have a good voice or not. But as I mentioned before on the what's your why, a few days ago, I had a whole topic on what is your why? Why are you in this? Because I like to help people tell their story. And that's really it. I know that's not fancy, some, lofty reason or whatever, but that's just it. I just like helping people tell their story and whatever I can do to make it, hit that target audience is what I want to do. So good question though. Oh, okay. Yeah, Wayne had a typo. He meant 32,000 instead of 3,200. He just dropped a 0, so that's what the difference was. Theo says, "I do use Audition, but hadn't found a limiting feature that can be engaged while recording. Maybe I missed that. Or would using limiting on something I've already clipped just be as good?" Maybe, and here's the thing, man. I know just enough to be dangerous about this stuff, but this is where someone like Alex DeWeese or, George Whittam or Uncle Roy or any of the VO tech gurus out there on equipment and DAWs and stuff like that could probably give you a better answer because, I find something that works and I stick with it. I personally don't need or use a limiter. Well, I take that back. The only time I use a limiter is when I'm doing a demo with someone, and at the very, very end, just to give it some punch, I hard limit it to -1 just to give it just a boost. But maybe I'm not the best person to ask about that super technical stuff. So I'm sorry, but that's all I got to say about that. Let's see. Andrew says, "Yep, 97 lessons." Yeah, I knew it was a lot. I didn't go through and watch every one of them, but yeah, the Dave Fenoy class has 97 lessons. So, yeah, I mean, it is a PhD level course in character work, which is why, I mean, $400 off seems like a lot, you know, it is a lot off, but it's normally like $1,000 because it is such an intense class. So if you're getting $400 off, you're getting a smoking deal because this thing is like it's like a PhD class. I mean, it's huge. JJ says, "Good morning. Got another Fiverr job. Grateful for the voiceover blueprint. Dave's class has so many tips and suggestions." Yep. I'm glad you got that other job. You're starting to get them a lot now, JJ, after working in the blueprint and working on the stuff that you've been working with John on. So congrats. Keep that up. Fiverr can be a moving target. It can be hard to gain momentum on there, as a lot of people will attest. But once you do, once you start figuring out the right things to do, and it starts to snowball, and you can start really, gaining some traction. Theo says, "Hit that like button." Yes, please hit that like button. LTRS says, "Lots of impressions, no jobs. Am I doing something wrong?" I don't know are you referring to Fiverr? What are you referring to? I'll need to know that. But without looking at your profile, I would not be able to guess what you're doing wrong, if anything. Edwin says, "How do you deal with life balancing? My work is physically and mentally demanding. I got these butthead HOA, and my mom is fighting a challenging battle with cancer. I just feel overwhelmed." Edwin, I'm sorry to hear that. I- if you've watched this thing for very long, you've heard me talk about how it is a challenge for me to have a work-life balance as well. And over the years, I've been able to beat myself into submission to do that. It can be really hard. And as I said, I believe yesterday, this profession is a very solitary profession because you're in this booth however many hours a day by yourself, and it can be lonely. And so I don't care if you've got to set a reminder on your phone or whatever you've got to do, but set some time to get out of here. I'm getting better at that, getting up and moving around and getting out, and, my watch will has a reminder where it'll vibrate when it's time to get up and walk around some. So whatever you've got to do to make that happen, make it happen. And then, of course, weekend comes, try if you can to unplug it and don't jump back in there. I mean, if I get emails about voiceover, um, if you email me with questions, like if you're a student of mine or, someone in the blueprint or whatever, I'm just saying it right now, I will probably, unless it's an emergency, I will probably not get back to you until the following Monday, because I value my family time. I value my, you know, downtime more and more now. I've gotten better at it with the help of my wife and kids. I've gotten better at doing that, but, um, I'm sorry you're having to balance all those things, but, just try your best to do what you can to unplug and, hope it gets better. Theo says, "I'll join the tech, webinar and ask the tech experts." Yeah, when you're on that tech webinar with Alex, just, yeah, he'll know much more about that kinda stuff than I do. As I said, I'm not a gearhead. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I use what works and don't look back. Becky says, "I probably should know the answer to this, but is hard limiting to -1 the same as normalizing to -1 dB?" Once again, that's a question for Alex. I use it because I just saw Bill doing it when he was producing demos, and it was giving him that good punch. And it does do a really good job of that. It's similar because it does take everything up, but I think the difference is, and I may be wrong, but I think the difference is instead of normalizing, which takes the peaks up to that, the hard limiter takes more than just the peaks up. It just kind of brings everything up to that level. I think, like I said, I'm not the greatest person to ask that question. Jim says Fiverr proved to be too much hassle. Well, some people do give up, and that's okay. But you also, if you work with someone who is a Fiverr guru, like John Drennan in the Blueprint, he will probably be able to get you turned around. However, if you're, I mean, there's a lot of things on the profile itself, the gig itself, that need to be done right. But also, if you're not working with good quality demos, that's the first and foremost. That's the, if you don't have good demos, you could do everything right on your profile. If you don't have good samples, so that is step one, is getting good demos. Then you can work with someone like John who knows everything there is to know about Fiverr to get you back in the game. But you don't have to. If you're done with Fiverr, just wash your hands of it and find another place to get work. There's plenty of it out there. Sarah says, as much as I'm intrigued by the Dave Fenoy character course, I've only watched about 1% of the VO Blueprint sessions, and I'm still building my booth and trying not to drown in VO info fire hose. Yep, I feel that. I get it. Just know though that if you get it at the discounted rate, it will be in there forever. So you can you can watch it 6 months from now, when you want to. But you know, if you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. That's cool. And yes, I get the fire hose thing. It's a lot. So just a little bit here and there, and just remember to participate, Sarah, in the blueprint, meaning the webinars. Ask lots of questions. Get a buddy. Remember the buddy system we talked about yesterday. That kind of thing. It will start to stick. Trust me, it'll start to stick. Callie says, by the way, I watched that Simon Sinek video the other day. It was seriously a life changer. Led me to some journaling and getting some clarity on some important things. Thank you so much for that suggestion. Right? It'll change your life. I mean, it'll shift the way you think about everything you do in business, and in life, really, but mostly in business. I mean, people don't buy what you do; they buy why you do it. And once again, if you haven't seen it, go to YouTube, type in Simon Sinek, Sinek, Simon Sinek, start with why. And it's a TED Talk. It's so good. I've watched it so many times, I pretty much have memorized it. Jim says, whenever my head begins to feel overwhelmed, I back away from it. Yep. If it's important, though, you may need to come back to it, but if not, if you just want to, like I said, wash your hands of it and just be done with it, that's good too. Try not to overwhelm. Because then remember a few weeks ago when I talked about how I was working that day and I had so many things, so many plates spinning, and my brain just said, nope, you've had enough, and just stopped working. I literally froze and I couldn't figure out what I was doing. It's because I had so much going on at one time. So don't be that guy. So if you start to feel overwhelmed, that's your cue to back away, take some time, even just get up and walk around the house. Just do a big, lap around your house, not outside, but inside or outside if the weather's okay. Here it's not. I think we hit a record yesterday or the day before, 118 outside. So just use that as your warning sign, your yellow caution sign to back away for a minute. JJ says, I re-listened to Mallory's class in the voiceover blueprint and to John on the Fiverr webinar. They suggest change tag words, look at other sellers change prices. Just little changes worked for me. That's right. Sometimes it is just a little bitty tweak. Maybe it's your pricing, maybe it's your tags or your keywords. I mean, there's so many little things that you can do that will just, break the log jam and start getting you, some opportunities. Jim says, -1 seems high, -3 looks safer to me. Yeah, -3 for most jobs. I only do -1 when we're working on a demo because you want a demo to be punchy and boosted. So, yeah. Jim says, what is with the crown symbol and the number beside my name on the post? That is, I talked about this the other day, Jim. I'm not too sure myself, but those are apparently top fan badges or something where, if the more you comment and the more you attend these live huddles, you get ranked. So it's just a way to gamify YouTube, I guess. Geekalicious says, I'm new to VO. How long does it usually take to learn about how to do basic audio editing? I like to start with some beginner level VO jobs. Well, that's a great question. And it really depends on how much you sink into this, submerge yourself in this. As far as basic video or audio editing, there are a million YouTube videos on how to do basic audio editing on all the different DAWs. You know, if you're on Adobe Audition, I am partial to, well, I'm partial to the Blueprint. If you're in the Blueprint, there's tons of stuff in there on how to use Audition and Audacity. But if you're not in the Blueprint, YouTube is your friend. I'm partial to a guy named Mike Russell on YouTube for Adobe Audition stuff. He's in the UK. Radio Creative, Music Radio Creative, I believe is his channel. But just remember Mike Russell, and just type in Adobe Audition Mike Russell, and you'll get a ton of basic video editing or audio editing how-tos. And you can do the same thing for all DAWs out there. And then it's just a matter of just rinse and repeat, just getting in and tinkering and playing with stuff and figuring stuff out. So yeah, have fun with it though. Keith says, hey, Mike, I got into the Facebook page and have already met some awesome people. I'm trying to get with a buddy or two who need that occasional kick in the pants when I'm feeling a bit lazy. Awesome group. Yeah, he's talking about our private Facebook group for the VoiceOver Blueprint. It's a little bit, I don't know how many, maybe 100 members in there, or give or take. But yeah, it's a great place to kind of ask questions and get feedback. And, we do contests. I live stream every job that I get into the group, auditions and regular jobs. The only time that I can't stream work into that is when I'm under a non-disclosure agreement or I'm working on some massive e-learning project that's like 3 or 4 hours. I'm not going to live stream that whole thing. So anyway, that's our private Facebook group in the Blueprint. It's very, very useful. Jim says, how do you get in the Blueprint? Well, go to thevoiceoverblueprint.com and there's a link there to learn more about it, where I do a little quick video where I explain everything in the Blueprint. And then you can book a call with Fred, who is one of our partners, and he will discuss, the ways to actually get in there. So check it out, thevoiceoverblueprint.com. Sarah says, I think Mike Russell also creates the Audacity how-to videos. Yeah, you may be right. Since I only use Audition, every now and then I'll go reach out to Mike and or at least watch one of his videos on something that maybe I wasn't quite up on. But these days, I'm pretty solid on my recording prowess after however many thousands of jobs I've done by this point. LTRS says, I think my issue was pricing myself too high. I was offering $500 per 700 words for e-learning and $10 per 50 words for a standard voiceover for ads or characters. I'm assuming I'm pricing high. Yeah, that sounds a little high to me. The $10 per 50 words is not too bad, but 500 per 700 words is a little high, especially for Fiverr. Plus, you got to go on there and compare yourself to other new sellers. You may have done this for years and years, but if you're on Fiverr and you're a new seller, you're ranked at new seller or level 1 or even level 2 or whatever, you've got to compare yourself to other people at that level. If you're way overpriced versus other people and their samples are just as good as yours, put yourself in the buyer's position. Are they going to go with you at twice the rate when the guy next to you sounds the same for half? So be competitive. And as you work your way up the levels, you can then start raising your prices. So give that a shot. Kirk says, how's Ringo? Ringo's about the same. He's still coughing a bit. I mean, he's been on these meds now for about 3 days, and he still sounds like he's hacking up a lung, but hopefully he'll get better. But he's all right. Wayne says, replying to Jim, displays the cumulative points that they've earned for engaging with the specific live stream. Clicking on the icon will take viewers directly to the leaderboard to see the top 50. Okay, cool. He's talking about those little symbols with the crown and the numbers. Sarah says, One Voice in Dallas, any VO Blueprint graduates presenting there? Yes, there are actually. 2 of them I know for sure are going to be, one is on the panel for automotive VO, and one is the moderator of that panel. So Charles Coates is presenting in the panel, and Troy Holden is the moderator for that panel. So those are both Blueprint graduates. So, and it warms my heart to see people who, when they first got into VO, and I worked with them right out of the gate when they were fresh off the turnip truck, now being thought leaders in the industry and actually doing presentations and stuff. So pretty cool. I will probably, well, I don't want to jinx it, but I will probably be presenting something at VO Atlanta this year. Not quite sure yet, but working on that as we speak. LTRS says, yep, it was sort of an epiphany. I only have 2 jobs under my belt and I was making a huge mistake. I'm going to adjust my pricing right now. Good for you. See what happens. Give it a few weeks though. When you adjust your price, don't think it's just going to be like that. Just give it a few weeks to kind of settle in, because the algorithm has to now shuffle it a little bit differently. So keep in mind that it takes some time. Keith says, Mike, when are you doing the fake audition again? I do that once a month. So since we just did it on the 1st, I usually try to do it around the 1st of the month. So keep an eye out for the 1st of August. All right. Wow. We went way over today. There's really no time frame, but yeah, we're at 39 minutes. So lots of good questions today. So thank you for that. Hope you have a fantastic weekend, each and every one of you, and be safe out there. Stay cool. And I'll see you back here on Monday, where I've got some good news to share, or at least a little bit of good news. I'm going to tease it a little bit. So make sure you're here on Monday, because I think you're going to like this news. It's good for the entire voiceover industry. It's good news for everyone. So I'll break that on Monday. So until then, have a good weekend again. Have a good day, and I'll see you then.